Hi guys, this is our study session 5 where we continue our journey of cybersecurity. And in this session, we'll continue Linux Fundamentals Part 2. Part 2 is not available for free for the new users. So I did find a video on YouTube. So I learned it from that and I'll discuss about it now. So the first part is SSH. SSH is secure shell. It allows us to remotely execute commands on another device remotely. In the given diagram, this is our computer and this is the Linux server that was started, and we try to access Linux server remotely through another computer, which is represented here as my computer. And here I wrote oh, hello world, where this hello world is transmitted through the network. It is encrypted. Any data sent between devices is encrypted when it is sent over a network such as internet. And it reaches the Linux server, it decrypts it, and it reads the messages hello world again. So how do we log in into our Linux machine using SSH? We need two things to log into another system remotely. What are they? IP address of the remote machine and the credentials to a valid account. One example they provided is SSH try hack me at the rate IP address, which is 10.10.137.96. Once executed, it asks for password. So the password for their system is try hack me. And that's about SSH. To give a brief summary about SSH, SSH is used allows us to remotely execute commands on another device remotely. That's what it is. Now, introduction to flags and switches. When using a command, unless otherwise specified, it will perform its default behavior. So, to extend this, we use things such as flags and switches. The first thing we in our example is ls. When we write ls on our Linux machine, it usually hold on. Let me start my Linux machine. Uh, I have it on my virtual box actually. This, yeah. In the meantime, let's talk about the commands. So to extend this behavior of our commands, we use flags and switches. What do we do when we write a normal command such as ls? It only lists the no, whatever the folders we created. So there are some folders or files that are hidden. So what do we do to find out those files? There's a flag called -a, short for all. It lists out all the files and folder, including hidden or not hidden. So commands that accept these will also have help option. It lists all the possible options that the command accepts. It's taking time. All right. Then there are once we execute that, these are the commands that we got in our after executing it. So it is in fact a formatted output of what is called a man page, short for manual. Remember in our first session of Linux or in the search engine, we talked about man for documentation. I think it's in specialized search engines where if you want to know about anything related to Linux commands or anything related to networking, you can just go for documentation on Linux machine. Like there's something called manual page, Linux manual page. It lists out, it's similar to documentation. Now there's another thing called help. It is in fact a formatted output of what is called the man page, short for manual. Now, what is manual page? Like I said, it's a documentation for any command or flag or any switch. Now, when we say man ls, it lists out what is the use of ls, the description, what it is used for, why do we need it. Source of information for both system commands and applications available on a Linux machine. That is about man. Why is it taking so long? All right, then we'll move on to our file system interaction continued. We learned about few commands such as cat, ls, cd. So this is an extension of that where we learn a few more improvised or some more commands that are useful for us in this journey. So the first one is touch. We can create a file. We can create a file using touch. Then as other one is mkdir, make directory. It creates a folder. And to copy a file or folder, we use something called cp, which is short for copy. To move a file or a folder, we use mv, which is short for move. To remove a file or folder, we use something called rm, which is short for remove. Then to determine the type of a file, whether it's txt or ASCII text or anything like .py or anything, we use file. Okay. So our first task is to create files and folders. So how do we do it? Like we talked about it, like we just talked about creating a file here. We use touch command. So in the first example, we created a node using touch node. And to create a folder, we use the command mkdir make directory my directory, the name of your directory. And to remove a file or a folder, we use something called rm. So to remove you just created a file called note using touch. And to remove that, you just write rm note. That is how it works for files. But when you want to delete a folder, you use an extra flag called -r. rm-r my directory to delete a folder. Now our third task is to copy and move files. CP and MB, which are short for copy and move. The command is copy node to node 2. It copies the contents of node to node 2. Now next move node 2 to node 3. Renaming you could say move or rename or anything. So you're in this case, it's renaming the file node 2 to node 3. Move will merge or modify the second file that we provide as an argument. Our fourth task is to determine the file type. So far, the files we have used in our examples haven't had any extension. Did you notice anything regarding this? We always only wrote touch note or RN note or CP note, anything like that. CP note to note 1, like that. We never mentioned anything like note.txt, note.py. or something. So when we say file note, it gives out the note as ASCII text because we haven't mentioned anything. It's stored by default. It's stored as ASCII text. To move the file, my file to the directory, my folder, use move my file, my folder. That's how it is. Now with this, our file discussion is completed. File system interaction. Now we'll talk about permissions. A file or folder can have a couple of characteristics that determine both what it is that and who we can do who we can do it as, such as read, write, execute. So what I mean to say is users are usually divided into administrator, or people who take permission from administrator and have access to the machine. And they usually have three types of permissions: read, write, and execute. Admin has all three permissions. When you notice this diagram, minus RWX, RWX, RWX. Minus is the file type, minus or D. Minus indicates regular file, D indicates directory. After that, it is divided into three groups: RWX, RWX, RWX. R is short for read, W is short for write, X is short for execute. Now, what do we do the first group represents the permissions of the file owner, read, write, and execute permissions for the file owner. The second group is read, write, and execute permissions for the group owner of the file. Like you are sharing the file with your friend or anyone that wants to work on the file. So that is when you call them a group owner. They don't have the same permissions like the file owner unless the file owner mentions it explicitly. So yeah, third group is read, write, and execute permissions for all other users who you have given permission. Yes. So how do we switch between users? Unless you are the root user or using root permissions through sudo, then you are required to know two things to facilitate this transition of user accounts. The user we wish to switch to, the user's password. So when you want to switch between users, unless you are a root user, you should know two things: which user you want to shift to, and that user's password. The command is very simple, which is su, the user you want to shift to. After prompting this, you will get a prompt to enter a password, and then you just enter the password. Yeah. Now, when you write this only su user to the username, you are directed to previous user's home directory. Meaning, the one where they left, like if they just used home try hack me in the above example, we are prompted to the same place. But when you use su slash hyphen l user 2, this will drop us into the home directory of the user. Instead of going to the place where they left out, we'll go directly to the home directory. That is the point of this flag, hyphen l. We'll also talk about few common directories present in every Linux system. Oh man. And I just we'll talk about the commands in the next video as well. Okay. A few common directories include slash etc. What it does, it is short for etc. And it is a common place or location to store system files that are used by your operating system. Second one is slash var, short for variable data. It stores data that is frequently accessed or written by services or applications running on the system, like your log files. Then slash root. Unlike home directory, the root folder is actually the home for root system user. Home directory and root directory are different. Root directory is the home for root system user. Root is your administrator. Now, the fourth one is PMP, short for temporary. It's volatile and is used to store data that is only needed to be accessed once or twice. It's similar to how RAM on a computer works. So, yeah, this is about part two of Linux fundamentals. This is a short notes I prepared on that. We talked about SSH, flags and switches, then common directories, file system interaction. With this, we'll stop this. Thank you.